Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and co-author of the Kidney Disease Solution. And I'm joined today by the amazing Emily Cahill. Emily is a fully qualified naturopath and registered nurse. Emily has a special interest in oncology and all things kidney. She also works at a cardiovascular unit here in a big hospital here in Melbourne. So she's very well spread over all things related to kidneys. We just need you now doing some diabetic stuff, Emily, and then you'd be fully covered there. Emily is a huge part of our kidney coach team. She writes blogs with me every week. She does the bulk of the videos with me. And if you're sending in an email and you get a reply, it could definitely be from Emily. She's one of our customer support qualified naturopaths that are on there. And the other thing I want to say about Emily, apart from being just an amazing human, is that she is a fully qualified kidney coach naturopath, meaning she's the only one that Duncan and I have actually trained on the program and knows how to take people through the program, refine it and make it even more individualized if that's what you need. So if you are following the Kidney Disease Solution and you're getting a bit stuck, you've done level 1, you don't know where to go to next, or you've got some medications and you're not sure what you can and can't take, you can always reach out to the customer service team and you can either book a consult with Emily and she'll refine the program for you, or she'll help answer some questions for you. So Emily, thank you for joining me again today. I always appreciate you being on these videos. Otherwise I'd be very lonely doing them all by myself and that'd be no fun at all. So I always say at the end of the videos that if you have questions or anything that you want us to write or talk about, put them in the comment section. And so one of our amazing community members had asked me about taurine. And so I went around and we wrote a blog on it. And so Emily and I thought we would discuss the amazing roles of taurine in kidney disease today. So I know I wrote the blog, Emily, so I will hand over to you, but feel free to pass back anytime because I feel that's a little bit mean. But
really mean.
Why don't we start by talking about what taurine is? And yeah, you start there and then we'll go through and see what comes up.
Okay. So taurine is an amino acid. It's classified as a semi-essential amino acid, which means that we get it from food, but we can also make it from some of our other amino acids in the body. And it's got a lot of benefits and a lot of use when it comes to cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And I guess that sort of flows on to why it can be beneficial for kidney disease as well. But I guess some of its main actions are that it's an antioxidant. And hopefully you've watched some of our other videos and you know why we love antioxidants and how beneficial they are for kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, pretty much most chronic health conditions. It can help to lower cholesterol, can help to lower blood pressure, actually can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. It's got actions of improving insulin sensitivity and increasing insulin secretion, so it can be beneficial for blood sugar levels. And one of the things that I really like taurine for is its role with stress. So it is sort of considered an inhibitory amino acid. And so what I mean by that is that it can help with dampening, I guess, down stress levels and increase some of our neurotransmitters that are really important for relaxation. So things like GABA, and can also help with reducing adrenaline, so which you might know as epinephrine. So adrenaline and noradrenaline, or epinephrine and norepinephrine, are secreted in times of stress. They've got a number of different actions in the body, but they can do things like increase blood pressure because it causes our blood vessels to constrict, makes your heart go really fast, can give you the tremors a little bit. So taurine can help with reducing sort of those, physical, I guess, signs of stress as well in the body.
Yeah, and I think I said that in the blog that I wrote. I didn't actually go right into the stress mechanism, but that, if you're diagnosed with a chronic disease like chronic kidney disease, you're going to, stress is part and parcel of what goes with it. And then obviously having high blood pressure and then that whole feedback loop that goes on. And that's where taurine is actually really amazing because it works via, now I think the technical word for it is it down regulates the renal afferent sympathetic tone, which means that when we get stressed, and everything that Emily said is we pump out more of epinephrine and norepinephrine, or in Australia we know them as adrenaline and noradrenaline, and they cause vasoconstriction in the endothelial tissue, which makes your blood pressure go up. And what taurine does is it actually reduces the sympathetic tone, meaning it relaxes that endothelial tissue, which then causes vasodilation, which then helps to lower blood pressure. So it's got an amazing mechanism that way. And as we know, the little blood vessels that go through the kidneys and things like that can be really quite prone to this intracellular increased blood pressure. And so taurine has a very special mechanism of down-regulating blood pressure via the renal tubules and the endothelial tissue inside the kidneys. And that in itself is quite kidney protective, because then what we're doing is we're getting a better quality of blood flow through the kidney tissue, which means then you're getting more oxygen and all nutrients into the kidney tissue. So you're going to enhance and accelerate healing and all of those kind of little things as well that I don't think I mentioned in my blog, but that's all part of that whole mechanism of how taurine works. So it's really great that way. So do you want to talk about, because it is so amazing, it's got so many specific mechanisms in the cardiovascular system, which is that blood pressure, but do you want to talk about how it works with diabetes? Because the studies on that were actually really cool with how taurine and diabetes went together and how that works.
Yeah, so taurine can help with the secretion of insulin from the pancreas. So what can happen in diabetes is the body isn't producing enough insulin in some instances. Sometimes it's producing too much, but it helps with that. And also for the cells to be more insulin sensitive, which means that if the cells are insulin sensitive, then they are more able to take up glucose from the bloodstream into the cells to use as energy, which means a lowering of glucose levels in the blood as well. But it's also really protective against some of the common complications that we see that can be associated with diabetes. So kidney disease being one of them, so diabetic nephropathy, but also things like cataracts, retinopathy, neuropathy, so damage to our nerves, so people can get numbness or tingling and things like that. Cardiomyopathy, so enlargement of the heart, and also plaque in our blood vessels as well. So it's, yeah, I probably didn't realize how protective taurine was for diabetic complications. And what we know is that, similar to people with kidney disease, but people with diabetes generally have lower levels of taurine when it's tested in the blood as well.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Yeah, I'm a bit like you. When someone asked me to research it, I obviously know about taurine for nervous system and cardiovascular. I didn't realize, like you, just how amazing it was at diabetes. In fact, some of the studies showed that taurine supplement, like a taurine supplementation, actually put a stop to the progress that proceeds with late on stage diabetes, meaning it prevented diabetes from manifesting altogether, which I think is amazing. Like, you know, if taurine is a mechanism behind the onset of diabetes for someone, that making sure that you've got adequate levels, plasma levels of taurine can stop diabetes from manifesting. If you've got it running in your family, if you've got, you know, you've not been eating a great diet and things like that, that one blew my mind. And just they tested people that developed late stage diabetes, and they all had very low plasma levels of taurine, so they were taurine deficient. And again, we've spoken in previous videos where we can't just go correlation cause, but and so we can't say taurine deficiency causes diabetes. It's not how it works, but there's definitely a correlation between low plasma levels and potentially the development of late on stage diabetes. And then if you get your taurine levels up, if you know potentially that's something that may happen, you can actually circumvent the actual onset of diabetes, which I just find really amazing. So taurine gets a full thumbs up for that for that action. What else? And so yeah, the big ways that taurine works in diabetes is as an osmoregulator. So it means it counteracts the osmotic imbalances through the cellular membranes. So what happens and you may be able to explain this better than me, Emily, but in hypoglycemia, the blood sugars change the way the ions move through the cellular membranes in the kidneys, meaning blood fluid, fluid levels aren't regulated as properly. That's what osmoregulation is. It's the movement of ions, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and chloride in and out of the cells. And so that's why we get potassium imbalances and things like that in kidney disease. So taurine actually helps to facilitate the healthy movement of ions in and out of the cells by protecting that cellular membrane. It's a massive antioxidant, which Emily said. And as you know, we antioxidant pro because antioxidants are anti-inflammatory and they protect the cells. Taurine's also anti-inflammatory. So it interferes with the formulation of inflammatory mediators, which are the cytokines that come in chronic disease. So again, Emily and I often talk about anti-inflammatory antioxidants. They're like the two key things in most chronic diseases, but especially kidney disease. And if you can get a handle of those, you'll help slow the progression. So taurine does both of those. And again, it's also glucose homeostasis. So it interferes with the insulin signaling pathway and helps just to balance those blood sugar levels. So it's really very amazing. So do you want to talk about kidneys, the kidney function and taurine, and why? I mean, it is mostly through its cardiovascular and diabetic action, but it has some other things in there. Oh no, you just talked about that. I'm going all over the place. So what else do you want to say about taurine? What have I missed? We should probably talk about what happens. So if you're deficient, how would you know that you're deficient in taurine, apart from having a blood test?
Yeah, and I think that's one of that, you know, I can't, even for me as a practitioner, having someone in front of me, assessing taurine deficiency wouldn't be first on my mind. So I think it's one of those things that is going to be, you know, really difficult for people to assess if they are deficient, apart from knowing that they, you know, depending on their diet and if they've got any of those health conditions that we know that it can reduce it. But some of the symptoms can be problems with vision. So because it's important for our eye health, high blood pressure. So as we said, obviously it lowers blood pressure. Because it also has an action in terms of how calcium works in the body. So things like muscle pain after exercise or muscle cramps or things like that. So where because it helps to balance out the calcium excitability. Depression and anxiety. So it can help with some of our neurotransmitters that are useful for mood. It can help sort of calm the brain down as well. Weight gain is a symptom of taurine deficiency just because of its role in energy metabolism, which again wouldn't be where my mind would go. And problems with the thyroid as well.
Yeah, they seem like really general sort of ones. And it's funny because there is no, my understanding, and I'm going to have a look at my pathology test, but I've never seen a straight taurine plasma test. And it seems to be a plasma test we have to do, not a blood. So if you are interested in testing taurine, it seems to be all the research is done on blood plasma versus red blood cell. I know you can do it in like a great big amino acid profile, but you know, they're like $300-400 profiles to see what your taurine levels are. I don't know whether you can just do a straight standard, can you please test my taurine, doctor? So, and again, like you, it's taurine deficiency isn't one of the first things that you think about, again, unless if I had someone in front of me and I'm thinking, okay, they've put on weight, they've got diabetes and they've got some neuropathy and maybe they're a bit depressed and anxious, I might put them on taurine, but I may not be testing for it. So it's definitely one, yeah, that it's going to be more in the forefront of my mind now. So with taurine, what can cause taurine deficiency? What is it that, you know, why are suddenly people deficient in taurine?
So one thing can be dietary. So being an amino acid, the main forms of taurine in the diet are animal meats. So anyone who's vegetarian or vegan is likely to be deficient in taurine. Which is going to be most of our kidney guys because they need to go on a vegan vegetarian diet. So we definitely have that, yeah. Also people who have chronic candida infections as well. Tends to reduce as we get older. And then as we've sort of said, you know, we know that people with diabetes are at higher risk of being deficient. People with kidney disease, heart disease are cancer as well, because being an amino acid, and with the way cancer can change the way the body deals with protein and muscles, that can be another cause. What else?
I think deficiencies in vitamin A, zinc, and B6 or P5P, which is the activated form of B6, because they're all part of the enzymes that help in the metabolism and uptake of taurine, can also lead to taurine deficiencies as well. So other things that, maybe if you've got someone who's a big zinc deficient, and those symptoms are much easier to pick up, like lack of smell and taste, white spots on the nails, poor lowered immunity. Maybe if you've got someone with a chronic zinc deficiency, and then some of these other conditions, you might be thinking that taurine might be an issue. Being an amino acid, and being that we know it's in a lot of red meat, are there other foods that people with kidney disease could eat to make sure they're getting some taurine in their diet?
Well, you can get it out of fish, and that's probably a good source. I mean, obviously, if someone's chosen to go completely vegetarian or vegan, but if they're willing to eat fish, that can be a good source of taurine.
I think eggs have some taurine in it as well. So if someone wanted to go on taurine drug interactions, is that something that people are going to have to think about?
Well, it's because it can lower blood pressure, then taking it alongside blood pressure lowering medications, that would just be something to be aware of and to monitor. And also taurine may reduce the excretion of lithium, which can increase lithium levels in the body, and lithium being a drug that needs to be kept within quite a small window as well. That would be, something else that can interact with it.
Yeah. And then I think probably the other thing I want to say is dosaging. So you can take whopping big doses. In fact, the clinical trials that I was looking at, some of them were dosing up to 6 grams a day over a 4-week period. And they were in the diabetic or the cardiovascular clinical trials. And they were doing big doses with no side effects. I think generally doses between 500 milligrams and 2 grams show to be pretty efficacious, but the upper limit of toxicity is like much higher. So you can get away with quite high doses. In fact, I would think in things, if you're diabetic and your diabetes is a bit out of control and you're stressed and things like that, that I'd probably be looking at, I don't know about you, but I'd be probably looking at putting someone on 3 grams a day, quite a decent dose of taurine, to really, because of how amazing it is at managing stress and the cardiovascular system and blood sugar. I'd be going divided doses and up to 3 grams a day to really try and get on top of that quite quickly. And maybe even if someone had really out of control diabetes and things like that, where they weren't responding to even pharmaceutical sort of stuff, maybe even doing the 6 grams over a 4-week period and then dropping the dosage down. They'd all seem to be very safe in clinical trials. Did you have anything you wanted to add about that? Or?
I think I often use probably about 3 grams a day, depending obviously on the person and the reason I'm using it. But it's never been something that I've ever had anyone have a side effect to or react to, or no,
me either. I really think, my final words on taurine are that if you're someone that's really prone to stress, cardiovascular disease, and your blood pressure goes up, when you're stressed and you've got blood sugar issues, taurine's kind of like the perfect nutrient for you, because it just hits all of those areas so beautifully. And Henry Ozeki, he's Australian, isn't he, Henry? He's a Australian, now I don't even know what his qualifications are. He's not a naturopath. Nutritionist, okay. Yeah, so he heads up one of our big practitioner-only companies here and does a lot of research, and he's got kidney disease himself, and taurine's actually one of his go-tos for kidney disease. So I have a whole new respect for taurine. So I want to thank the person on our community for asking about that. Again, I knew it was great for kidney disease, but I didn't realize how amazing it was. And so amazing so that we may even change our kidney advanced formula in time to actually put some taurine in there, because I just think it's that good. So anything else I've missed about taurine or that you wanted to add, Emily?
No, but you know what else it's really good for is hot flushes for people who are perimenopausal and menopausal. That is something I do use it for.
There you go. And that's because of the
out there with hot
vasodilation.
flushes.
I tend to yell at my herbs in hot flushes, and that's because of the vasodilation effect, I guess. Interestingly, too, because in Chinese medicine and hot flushes, they start from the bottom up, so they almost rise from the kidneys. And so now that you say that, that would actually make sense. It's probably working on that whole affluent system that we were talking about. There you go. So there you go. If you're menopausal and you have kidney disease, you've got diabetes and high blood pressure, taurine is for you. So hopefully you found this information useful. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you pop them in the links below, in the comment section below, and I will get to them. And remember to hit subscribe, because if you hit subscribe, anytime Emily and I put out new content, you'll get notified about that. If you want any more information about the kidney disease solution, head over to www.kidneycoach.com, and there you'll find everything that we're all about there. If you need to email us, or if you're doing the kidney disease solution and you're now thinking about adding taurine into your protocol and you want to know if it's safe with medications, you can hit us up at support@kidneycoach.com, and Emily or the amazing Rachel, who's also a fully qualified naturopath, someone will get back to you and answer those questions for you. Emily, thank you again for your time today. Thank you everyone for watching and being part of our community. We really value and cherish you. If you like the video, give us a like, and we will see you next time.